Hello, you beautiful savages, and welcome to the Refined Savage Podcast. First up, a little sponsor info. Serious Steel. Check out Serious Steel. Serious Steel, Chad Clark got me in touch with them. These guys are fantastic human beings. They sell everything you could possibly want for your gym. So barbells, kettlebells, plates. They do their version of like hip mobility stuff and foam rollers and everything from t-shirts to bands and wraps. It's just the best around. I have several of their products and really like them a lot. Really good people too. Friends of the show, and like I said, Chad Clark is a friend of all things strength and a real legit guy. Check out those guys at Serious Steel. It's serioussteel.com and use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. CBD oil. If you're using it out there, raise your hand right now. Very good. Warrior CBD oil. Look, they put out some great stuff. So my newest thing for them that I love is the roll-on applicator for sore muscles. You roll it on your joints, you roll it on your muscles. Goes on kind of wet, so then you have to like work it in with your hands, which is really good. You can really get it in there deep. WarriorCBDofficial.com. Use code WARRIOR20 off at checkout. Check out their CBD oil. Check out their muscle rubs. They even have CBD oil for your dog. So if you have a dog that freaks out whenever the thunder hits, check it out. Might be great for them. Cerberus Strength. So if you guys have been to a strongman competition any time in the last few years, you've seen athletes wearing Cerberus Strength gear. They're all over the world now. And they are some of the best when it comes to making equipment for strongman, powerlifting, and Highland Games. Hey, I was on the circuit for 25 years. And Cerberus Strength, I wish they would have had it when I was throwing. Their knee wraps are fantastic. Their knee sleeves are fantastic. Their wraps and straps are fantastic. I love their wrist wraps. All heavy-duty stuff that will help your lifting, will help your throwing, will get you to that next level. Check them out, Cerberus-strength.us. Use code REFINEDSAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. Finally, up on the show today, Viking Coffee. Hey, you guys are going to buy coffee, right? Everybody out there is drinking coffee. I've got a cup right here in front of me. Viking Coffee is the way to go. Best coffee I've ever had. They're a sponsor at all our events. They come out, they're brewing. Evan Armstrong is brewing up the coffee. They do our Old Man Strength coffee, which you haven't tried yet. It will blow your doors off. Just a fantastic blend. He's got several other blends, though, too. If you want to give them a shout and give them a try, check them out at VikingCoffeeCo.com and use Viking Coffee 10 at checkout for a 10% discount. All right, that's it for the sponsors. This week on the show, we have Ryan Faehnle. Ryan is a best-selling author. He has written a book on fitness that just blew people's doors off. Incredible book. He is a sought-after strength coach. He is a myofascial stretching expert. He does an online program for people. Former strength coach at the University in Miami. This guy is a wealth of knowledge and information, and this podcast blew my mind. Lots and lots of information here, and truly a character. Check this out. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed doing it. He was gracious enough to let us come out to his house and see his home gym and did the podcast there. So it was a great day, and I hope you love the podcast. So check it out, and we'll see you at the end. Down in Cincinnati, Ohio with Ryan Faehnle. Welcome to the show.
Man, thank you for having me. I guess I'm having you, technically.
Technically, we are in your beautiful home gym. And we were just looking. This is better stocked. I mean, it's what are we looking at? 20 by 20, maybe?
25 by 25.
Yep. And it is like the most stocked home gym I have seen in quite a while.
It's called the Viper Pit. And when my wife and I moved to this house, it was funny. We were looking for houses, and I only wanted to see basements and garages.
Right,
The realtors are going in and showing us, look at this kitchen. I'm like, I don't care about the kitchen. I need to see the basement or the garage.
Yeah.
And this was one that had what I needed space-wise, so we drywalled it, finished it, insulated it, and
Verse Hypers, specialty bars, giant elite fitness racks, and
this is the ISO rack too. So I got the pins out in front, which are incredible for doing all kinds of pin work. So
beautiful.
This is where I meditate.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what it comes down to, especially guys who are like us, who are no longer, I guess we're always going to be athletes, but we're not really training for something. But it's a mindset. You got to have something to clear your brain.
And I'm big on having goals too, just being driven by something to work towards.
Sure.
And that's a large part of my training is always, like, personally for me, it's just picking random targets, and I'll train for it for periods of time. Like, sometimes I'll get a hair up my butt to let's see how high I can get my vertical jump for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'll just focus on that. And that's really rewarding when you get a big number. Other times it's body fat. Other times it's like a conditioning thing. So it's fun, and it's a good release too. I mean, I found a lot of guys that I talk to in our industry are actually kind of introverted. Even the ones who, like, I can get up in front of people, I can talk, I love people. But to recharge my battery, I have to be by myself.
Yeah.
And that's why having this garage gym is so clutch for me. It's like if I've had enough of the world and I'm about to snap on somebody, I could just come out here, let it go. And
well, that's, I keep, things keep showing up in our garage. So we've got a 6,600 square foot gym, but things keep showing up in the garage. So, like, there's some kettlebells out there, there's a rower out there, and I'm trying to get a pull-up bar. My wife's like, what are you doing? I said, but I'm in the gym. Even if I I have a set rule from 11 to 12 o'clock every day, I'm not your coach. Leave me alone. Let me train. Because for a while there, my lifting time was people coming up and still asking me questions and stuff. So, but the best part of my training for years, when I was on the Pro Highland Games circuit, I trained in a garage, just not nearly as nice as this, but same size garage, all by myself, in a power rack, and they were the best workouts ever.
It's funny that you mentioned that, having that big gym and then stuff starting to spill in your garage. If I'm honest with you, I've got stuff spilling into my basement too. So this is my garage. This is the gym, the designated spot. But I just bought a Rogue Echo bike for the basement. I got a TRX down there, some kettlebells, some sliders. There's going to be some other stuff.
Right.
Probably going to be a rower at some point. So my wife's like, don't you have a gym? I'm like, well, babe,
And you're training athletes out of here, right?
You know what? Out of here, I mostly do therapy work. So fascial stretch therapy.
Yep.
I will occasionally have some athletes come in. I've kind of gotten away from the one-on-one training aspect of it. I do a lot more stuff online now with consulting. So more of my gig is teams will bring me in to consult with their strength staff or their coaching staff. I've got one of those coming up soon, which will be interesting. I'll be actually talking to the head sport coaches of a university to kind of educate them on the whole training process because I can say things that their strength coaches can't say to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that's kind of why they're having me in, to kind of because there's a disconnect in the coaching world, right? It's you got the sport coaches, whatever their philosophy may be, they may crush the kids on a day that the strength coach had a challenging lift plan, and then the strength coach has to adapt. And my whole thing is, let's work together and map it out ahead of time. So I got stuff like that with consultations. I have moved away from training a lot of people in person. I still do some therapy work. We got the Cincinnati Bengals here. I'll do some of them. I got some baseball players, basketball players, but that's not the main part of my business.
The fascial stretch and the fascial release, and we were just talking, I've been, we're going to get her on the show here too. I've been working with Adrian Smith out of Rocky River, Ohio. And, that service you guys provide at the level you provide it is invaluable. There's so many PTs out there. There's so many athletic trainers. There's so many, and especially with CrossFit, when I have people at my gym, I've got foam rollers and lacrosse balls, but I don't give you that advice. I try to stay in my lane. My job is to get you in shape and get you strong. And if something goes wrong that is beyond my capacity, which as a strength coach who doesn't have that background is a lot of things, and you have to be honest with yourself that that's not my area of expertise. But to find people like you who have that background it's so valuable. And I was so psyched to find Adrian. And to be honest with you, if knowing what I know now, I would make the 4-hour trip down here to you if she wasn't right next to me, you know? So maybe talk a little bit about what you do with clients, because I don't think I didn't know that much about it, and it's putting me back together.
Yeah. Well, you know, the fascial stretch therapy, again, I'm not a licensed medical practitioner, so there's only so much I can do. And I absolutely do turn people away that come to me. They may say, oh, hey, I've got this like numbness in my foot or this nerve pain. It's like, hey, that's above my pay grade. I'm sorry. So the way I sell it is like stretching and mobility. I don't stretch it as treatment for anything, even though it kind of technically can cross some borders. But I think the real benefit of it is the broken medical system in America is what misses a lot of things. If you look at, like, a physician can only bill for like 15 minutes. So that's not often enough time to actually find the root of the problem. Whereas with me, you're coming to see me, you're booking me for an hour minimum.
Right.
And so that I can go through, and if we know understand fascia throughout the body, like the fascia doesn't only surround all the musculature, but it's weaved in through the muscles and the organs too. And so when we do spend time to try to work on the entire body as a whole instead of just one part, you just tend to get better results.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying this isn't me bragging. This is me bragging on the therapy itself, the system that Ann and Chris Frederick developed for fascial stretch therapy. But I've had colleges bring me in when their medical staff, this basketball player who's going to be in the NBA has been sidelined for 4 weeks with a back pain. I get him on the table for an hour and he pops up and he's playing, hasn't been back on the injured list.
Yeah.
That's not me. It sounds like I'm bragging. It's not that. It's just the fact that I had a whole hour to spend.
Yes.
I worked the entire body. So that back pain may have been coming from his shoulder. It could have been coming from something in his neck, his foot. So often in the medical system, you got back pain, they look right at the back.
Right.
And so that's why I think the big benefit of this is it's total body. Every session, no matter what you're coming to me for, we're working on everything. Yeah.
And I think you can brag a little bit about it because there are so few of you who do it and do it well. And it takes some talent to be able to do that. This isn't something you're going to go and take a 3-hour seminar and be able to do on people effectively.
Right.
There's so much. At least when I'm working with Adrian, it seems like it's very intuitive. Like you can. I don't even know how to explain it. That you can just kind of feel, oh, that's pissed off. Why is that pissed off? And then work up the chain.
Right, exactly. Work up and down the chain. Yeah, it does require a lot of anatomy basis, which I've had, both in my formal education as well as studying afterwards. But I enjoy what I do. Athletes, it's fun. Just last week alone, I had an NFL football player, basketball player is going to be in the NBA soon. Baseball player that's going to be in the major league soon. I had a girl who was has completed 6 Ironman triathlons. Yeah. I'll tell you what, she was something special. A lot of people say triathlon, they assume these like skinny little weak. Yeah. She was tiny, but she was anything but weak. Like this is a girl that trained strong in the gym too. She could squat a lot, do chin-ups with a lot. She just happened to have amazing aerobic capacity too.
Right.
So worked on her. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. I enjoy that because so much of my business now is on the computer with Skype consults or even just email consultations that it's nice to have a little bit of in-person stuff, and that's what I use the therapy for myself.
Yeah.
So
that's it's great. I encourage people to check it out. Make sure it's someone who is reputable and that it's not hard to figure out who's doing this and who isn't.
Right.
You were a Poliquin coach, right?
Correct.
And I think Adrian was. I've got another buddy, George Chapa, who's an Poliquin coach. So
yeah.
I mean, and if you don't know Charles Poliquin and you're in this industry, you might want to consider a different career. Yeah.
It's almost like you don't have. I'm not saying I agreed with everything of Charles and Charles and
I don't either. I don't.
But if you haven't at least read his work,
yes.
and you consider yourself a strength coach, well, I mean, I don't consider you a strength coach at that point because that just means to me that you haven't tried to exhaust every avenue to learn. Yeah. And those are the people that are going to be the best. I've read everybody, even people I don't agree with, even people that put out fluffy foo-foo stuff. Right. I still read their work because you know what? You can learn something from anybody.
You might catch that 1% out of there that you're not doing, or
yeah, exactly. Like you can. All the rage these days, the functional training stuff on Bosu and all that. I laugh at a lot of it, but I'll tell you what. I picked up a book. I can't remember the name of the book. It's in my basement. I just read it like 3 weeks ago. Anyway, It's all about functional training stuff, and 90% of it I was rolling my eyes, laughing, yawning. But then there was like 10% stuff that I was like, this is really good stuff, and I'm going to use it. It's like you can't ever shut out a source completely.
Yeah. I talk about, Judd Logan was a huge influence of mine for the first 15 years I was training myself and training athletes, I was just a Judd Logan clone.
Yeah.
I met Louie and took about half a dozen or 10 trips down to Westside. And then I became kind of a Louie Judd hybrid.
Yeah.
And then as I got further and further down the line, it started to morph into what I do now. But, even with things like CrossFit is the brand name, but people doing like a functional fitness regime, there's stuff you can take from there. And there's such a discrepancy between the ones that are really doing it right and know how to train athletes and the people who open up their corner store.
For sure.
And I'm sure you probably, in this area, probably have 100 of them around.
Tons of CrossFits around, tons of places like that. And you're absolutely right. I got a buddy who's big into that stuff. But what's funny is he's also really intelligent about programming. So even though if you picked up one of his workouts and said, it's just CrossFit. If you look a little closer, it's like, wow, that's intelligently programmed CrossFit that has a purpose and a goal and a target and is progressive over time. And that's what a lot of CrossFit's missing. The biggest thing that CrossFit captures is that it's fun.
Yes.
And people get, a lot of general pop people, they don't need a rigidly structured multi-year periodization program. Will it help them get their results better? Sure. But I think a lot of people, if you really pin it down, they would rather have a lot more fun and maybe sacrifice 20% of the results than get there much faster but be bored to tears in the gym, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, and if it's good and programmed correctly, and, I don't know what we do. We're not a CrossFit, but we do a lot of Metcons, no gymnastics, no Olympic lifting, a lot of strongman events, stuff like that. But when you look at that, I think that people want community. They want to have fun when they're in there, and they're not really that concerned with their back squat going up, even though it's cool when it does. You just have to make sure it continues to go up over time. You can't have people stalling out, and there has to be some research for these people outside of the CrossFit modalities where, you're going to people like you, or you're going to talk to Joe Ken or something, if you really want to be good at it.
Yeah, for sure. But CrossFit, I think overall, despite the kind of craziness that we get sometimes with it, I think it's brought a lot of positives to our industry as a whole. Yeah. If nothing else, more people are working hard in the gym. Yeah. And I'd rather, I hate to say it, but I'd rather have someone busting their butt on a maybe less than optimal program than yawning through a Zumba class or something like that, or something that's you see in most box gyms. Now you're going to get hate emails from the Zumba people.
Well, yeah. I don't know how many are listening. I don't know how many CrossFit people are listening. Yeah. But, I think if you take the some of the more I don't know. All exercises can be dangerous, right? But there's some things that I notice right off the bat when I go into a CrossFit gym. There is a giant part of the population that shouldn't be doing handstand push-ups. And especially the way they do them, because they're trying to do them for speed. They're bouncing their head off the ground, and they've got an ab mat there. Well, Christ, your head might be a little cushioned, but your neck sure as hell
cervical vertebrae don't care about that.
So when we started looking at programming for the gym, and I knew I couldn't just come in and run what I did for Highland Games, for all these people. So we started to look at that stuff and adding in stuff I did from Highland Games and stuff I got from Louie and from Judd and then from CrossFit. But then you look at the CrossFit stuff, just take out the shit that's not going to be worth your time as opposed to the risks you're taking.
Yeah. A lot of the CrossFit stuff that I think can be useful is like some of the programming stuff that they've made more popular. It's not that people never did it before, but CrossFit gave it a name.
Right.
Things like EMOM, every minute on the minute, or rounds for time, or as many rounds as possible of circuits. Things like that, I think, can be incorporated into an intelligent program, no problem. And let's face it, if you know your energy systems, if you understand aerobic capacity and alactic power and lactic power and all that stuff, you can use almost any tool in the gym to accomplish that. So it's way better than just doing it on a stair stepper for an hour at a time. You can actually get out and use movements and move a little bit and not be bored to death. So
yeah, I couldn't do like some of these people who are doing 60-minute cardio sessions on a treadmill or a step. I mean, God, I ride the bike to warm up for 10 minutes, a spin bike, and it's just like, I got to get off this thing. This is ridiculous,
Yeah.
I don't know how you put yourself in that mindset.
I don't know. I don't get it. But man, millions of people every day.
Yeah.
And they look the same.
Yeah.
Year after year. Just
that steady state cardio that never seems to get them anywhere. And
I think it can play a part in the program, but it's just like anything else. It's got to be progressed.
Yeah.
So the people that go at the same speed, at the same duration, that's like coming in and lifting a 10-pound weight and lifting the same 10-pound weight year in and year out. You're never going to get stronger.
What is your client base pretty spread out over the spectrum? I mean, as far as you're getting athletes and you're getting soccer moms and...
Yeah, I've got, I'd say my highest level athletes are ones who have potential to compete at this next Olympic Games.
Wow.
My lowest level athletes are ones that can barely sit on a 20-inch box properly. So it is a wide spectrum.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And honestly, I don't know who's harder to manage.
Yeah.
The high level ones, their training habits are great. You're not micromanaging technique or having them send you as much video or what it may be. But just the daily fluctuation in their readiness is crazy.
Yeah.
You have an Olympic level sprinter go out and do 4 50-meter bursts with 15 minutes between. That could cook them for 3 days.
Yeah.
Whereas Sally General Pop runs 4 and she's like, that wasn't very hard, and does 20 more and is still good to lift 2 hours later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So managing that's the tricky part. And because I do so much of it remotely, that makes it even more challenging. That's when I have to rely on a lot of biometric data. So people, sending me heart rates and HRV and blood pressure is another one that people just don't seem to pay attention to. And it's a good indicator of sleep and stress. And so monitoring and managing those things has become an ever increasing part of what I do. Glucose meters for blood sugar for fat loss clients. That's a good litmus test for carbohydrate intake and sources and timing and all that. I'll just have them do finger prick tests throughout the day.
Do you have a diet philosophy, or are you looking at everyone individually and kind of gauging their metrics and just figuring out what they should be eating?
I don't have one diet philosophy, and honestly, I'll be brutally honest. I think anyone that does is missing the boat big time, because it's no different than a trade worker saying, I only use hammers.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Everyone you get is going to be at a different place in their readiness to adopt change and what their education level is. So I use different strategies. I am, at this current moment, I have clients that are fasting. I have clients that are doing keto. I have clients that are doing carb cycling. I have clients doing high carb, low fat diets. I have clients that are eating 6 meals a day. I have clients that are rigidly tracking macros.
Yeah.
I have clients who are loosely doing portion sizes based on their fist or their hand, like the John Berardi stuff. I have clients measuring portions based on their plate, so saying like half the plate being green veggies, a third. So I really use a bunch of different styles, and a lot of that is just based on what information I get from them. And so I try my best to make the nutrition plan appropriate that the client can actually do and that meets their goals. So
it's because I've been keto since 2012, before I knew what keto was.
Yep.
That's the way I've been eating. I had blood sugar issues, and I kind of took care of it myself by going, I probably shouldn't eat all these carbohydrates and sugars and get rid of them and see what happens. Lo and behold, my blood sugar issues went away. And I get people all the time now sending me questions or asking me in the gym about keto. And I used to be a proponent of it, where I'm only a proponent of it for me.
For you.
For me, it works great.
Yep.
For you, might not work at all. My wife can't do it at all. It screws her up. She doesn't do well. But so that's kind of where I'm at, is I say, this is what I do. I think 90% of the people who come to me and say they're on the keto diet never been in ketosis in their life. They might have been on it forever.
Never been in ketosis, and not to mention, I think the biggest factor of a diet is what can you stick to.
Yes.
If you love fats and you just thrive on fats and you love eating fats and you don't really crave carbs, keto's awesome.
That's where I'm at.
But I have people that come to me to do keto, and it's like, when can I have bread? When can I have sugar? When can I have this? When can I have a piece of fruit? And I'm like, why are you doing keto?
Yeah.
If you love that stuff and that's all you can think about, don't mess with keto. Because ultimately, where keto fails isn't the diet itself, but what happens when you decide to stop the diet.
Yes, right.
And that's when I see it all the time. People will keto hard for 12 weeks, and maybe they lose weight, and they're in amazing shape, and they feel good, but they've been dying for pizza.
Yeah.
And they go have pizza, and then that all of a sudden we're stimulating the pleasure receptors in the brain.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're on a 5-day, 6-day pizza bender that they can't control. And that doesn't just go to pizza. Now they're crushing ice cream and chocolate and alcohol and sex. They turn into raging sex addicts because of. So write that down, everybody. Keto dieting turns you into a raging sex addict.
Be careful.
Yeah,
be careful.
Yeah. That's probably why you're doing it, right?
I am.
But people, and then they end up blowing up because it's an adaptive mechanism, right? It's super compensation the other way. If you go too crazy with trying to lose weight and lose fat and limit things, the second you add them in, the second you add carbs back in really high quantities, swell up like a pufferfish.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I notice, I know right off the bat when someone is going to fail or succeed on that diet because they'll say they're on it, whether or not they're actually on it or not. They'll say they're on it. The first thing they start doing is start looking for recipes for things like keto cheesecake and keto pizza. It's like, you're never going to make it. You're not going to make it.
And that's where compliance is a big thing. I've told the story on other podcasts before, but I had a client a while back. It was an obese female and came to me for some nutrition help. I didn't give her anything too crazy, but it was a balanced meal approach, but it was mostly with nutritious whole foods. So you could call it, I guess, a paleo structure. So mostly, lean meats and healthy fats, some fruits, vegetables. And she was doing okay, but when I touched base with her, she'd go, man, you know what? I'm doing great. But then I think about jelly beans and I can't get out of my head. And then I go and I eat like 2 bags of jelly beans and I feel guilty and all stuff. And I said, all right, let's remove that concept. If I tell you, Mark, don't think of a pink elephant, what did you just think about?
I thought of.
Okay. So for her, no processed food, that's all she could think about with jelly beans. So I took her jelly beans away. She freaks out, feels guilty, binges. So what I did is I said, all right, here's the deal. On days you lift, I want you to measure out a half a cup of jelly beans. Have it after you lift.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. Yeah. Love it. Zero guilt.
Yeah.
You just trained hard. Those carbs are going to go directly into the muscle tissue. There's no chance of it getting stored as body fat. Going to be awesome. Instant compliance. That's all she needed.
Yeah.
And she could follow the diet and she started dropping weight like crazy. And more importantly, she kept it off because now she has just a system for when she can have her jelly beans.
And 99.9% of your week is you're doing perfectly. And you have this one little thing that at the right time of day.
Yep.
Yeah, especially with something like the paleo diet, without all the crazy rules and regulations. You can't eat that; it's a legume or something. The basics behind that, to me, seem like not knowing anything about a human. You come to me, how should I be eating? I haven't seen any kind of blood work. I'm never going to look at blood work. That's, again, outside my wheelhouse. But here's a start. Let's eat like the paleo diet. Let's eat vegetables and meats and get rid of the grains and, nuts and seeds and that kind of stuff. And, my only problem with that ever was the strange rules that they wouldn't have eaten that,
Yeah, cavemen don't have paleo cookies. What are you talking about? Like they're not shredding coconut flour to make pizza. Like what are you talking? No, you're totally right. But paleo, I think, how it started was awesome. Yeah. It was just a general guideline of eat the foods that provide you the most nutrients per calorie, and that's really what it started as. But then all the nerds came in and made it all these crazy rules and well, you can't have beans and you can't. Oh, that's paleo. It's like, come on, get out of here.
Real food. That's
eat,
the basics.
Eat food as Nick Mitchell always says, live off the land. You know?
Right.
And that's really what it is.
Eat things with faces and parents and that grow in the ground. You know. How did you get started in this to begin with? Like, what's your background? I don't know that. I mean, we've met a few times, but I really don't know a lot about you. Like, how did you get into this?
So really, I kind of knew what I wanted to do since I was a young kid. I played basketball, and when I played basketball, I was obsessed with vertical jump. Like, that's all I cared about. I wanted to be able to dunk and all this stuff. And so I bought, I don't know if you remember the strength shoes.
Of course.
The platform shoes. So I ordered them out of a magazine, right? Yeah. Saved up my money from mowing grass and whatnot, ordered them out of a magazine, and started doing plyometrics with the strength shoes. Never mind the horrible Achilles tendonitis I had for about a month, but over time I was able to jump better. And I think it was, I know it was largely due to the jumping exercises, not the damn shoes.
Right.
But that's how I started training. I started lifting weights then too, and I noticed I not only became better at basketball, but my body changed too. It was awesome. And so I knew I wanted to do something in that arena. And so in college, I studied exercise science. I declared right as a freshman. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And what's interesting, I was working at the Student Rec Center for just the regular students. And my boss, I'm forever grateful to her because she honestly set the path for my career. We're sitting
What
there,
college was this?
Miami University.
Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're sitting there one day in the rec center, and she's like, so you're a junior now. Like, what are you going to do with your career? And I said, I'd like to be like a college strength coach or a pro strength coach. I think that'd be awesome. And she just ripped me a new one. She goes, are you kidding me? She goes, you're wasting your time. What are you doing working here at the Student Rec Center? She goes, we got one of the nation's best collegiate strength and conditioning coaches on this campus. And sounds like you haven't even reached out to him to ask if you could intern. She's like, you need to get over there. You need to volunteer to wipe down equipment, put plates away, just be a fly on the wall. She goes, don't waste your time in here with me. And I was like, okay. And at the time, the head strength coach there, Dan Dalrymple, he is now the head strength coach of the New Orleans Saints in the NFL. And so I went over there and I introduced myself and said, hey, is there any way I can come help out, be an intern and learn from you? And he set it up so that the next year I could come in, and there was no formal internship at the time. It was me just standing there asking a bunch of questions. Yep. He had bookcases. It was amazing. He had training programs like the actual journals of a lot. Like he had Judd's program from Charles. He had a lot of Charles's stuff for other athletes.
Yeah.
And so I would just read through his bookcase and all this stuff, ask a million questions, and I ended up getting school credit for it as a course. And so that's how it started. Well, my senior year, I'd been interning for a while, and it was to the point where they were starting to let me coach some of the like cheerleading and dance and things like that.
Oh, things they didn't care about.
Yeah, whatever. More or less. And we're sitting there one day, and the head strength coach comes in, and the TV's on, and it's like Sean Payton named new head football coach of the New Orleans Saints, and Dan sits back and he goes, I'm probably going to be getting a phone call about that.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, Sean Payton calls him, and he wants him to come down to New Orleans. So now there's a spot open. Well, his assistant at the time ended up getting promoted to head spot, and I was graduating right as that assistant spot opened up. And so that got me in the door there, and I coached there and worked my way up to assistant head strength and conditioning coach. And then in 2000, so that was in 2005. Then in 2011, Charles Poliquin called me and asked if I would come teach with him. So I spent the next couple of years traveling with him, teaching with him. We even lived together for a little bit in Rhode Island. We had a condo there that all the instructors would stay at whenever we were there. And so traveled and taught with him, and then just expanded out on my own business since then. Yeah. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell in the strength and conditioning industry. But
it's again, like you said, and I said earlier too, not everything, well, not anything anybody says you're going to agree with 100%, but he was responsible for so many good coaches out there now. And it's just by saying you were a Poliquin coach, I mean, it should get you in the door no matter where you're going. Now, there's people who still don't know who that is, but it should be a foot in the door no matter where you go. Just to say, hey, I've cut my teeth there. That's who I am.
Yeah. Regardless of what you think of him, his family tree in this industry is so big. Yeah. I mean, you think of guys like Adam Nelson and Judd Logan that came from, he coached them directly. And then all the coaches that came under Adam and Judd, it's just, it's spreading out, and the influence is so widespread that it'd be ridiculous. Even if you disagreed with everything he said, it would be ridiculous to not have some gratitude and appreciation for what he's done for the industry.
I got all my Poliquin through Judd.
Okay.
So that's how and then after, a while, then I started reading his books, but, you can just see that influence.
Yeah.
Anyway, and all these programs, and now all these coaches that have came under Judd have treed out, and they've all got Poliquin influences through there. It's pretty amazing stuff. He left quite a legacy. Yeah,
he definitely did. And, he's a guy, he was polarizing at times, but man, he stood firm with what he believed. That's for sure. So, but yeah, his training program, I mean, still to this day, like so much of the stuff that I have in here, I got the thick handle dumbbells, I got weight releasers, all that stuff I learned from him basically.
Yeah. And that's what we are as strength coaches to begin with, is you're pirates. You take stuff from everybody and use the stuff that's good for you and get rid of the stuff that doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's I think that's the mark of a good strength coach is who you worked with and who you took from and how it affects your training. And
yeah, for sure. And so I'm grateful for her name was Luann, my manager at the rec center, and then Dan Downer. Dan was a crazy guy. He played offensive lineman. He was a big dude, still is even to this day. Big hands, shake his hand.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like he's tickling up my elbow. Like, what? But he's a guy. He was at the NSCA conference and they had the Thomas Inch dumbbell.
Yeah, right.
And he just like nonchalant, young, didn't even know what it was. He walked up and goes, "Oh, what's this?" And just like picked it up, and everyone's like freaking out. And he's like, "Is that a big deal?"
I've tried to pick up that thing hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And every time I think, I'm going to pick it up this time. There's no way I'm not picking it up.
He did it just casually at a conference, like in his regular like clothes. He didn't warm up, didn't chalk up, just walked up, picked it up. He was a guy. Just crazy stories, and these stories, like, you wouldn't believe it unless you were there.
Yeah.
But like, there was a kid one time, a football player doing snatches, and he had a red 55-pound plate and a green 22-pound plate on the bar, and he goes to strap in, and Dan goes, "No straps today. We're working. I want to have strong grip." And the kid's exact words were, "But you can't do this much weight without straps." And Dan, he's a very awesome dude, but he also has an amazing temper.
Yeah.
Like, incredible. And, his face gets jet red. Like, he's just like steam shooting out of his ears. And he just walks up completely cold, like set his coffee down to do it. Set his coffee down, walks up, one hand in the middle of the bar, snatches it, presses it 3 times. This is 200 pounds, essentially, 198.
Yeah.
Spins around, slams it on the ground, calls the kid a pussy, and then MFs him out of the weight room. Like, and it's just one of those things. It's like just superhuman shit like that. Like, I don't know what his powerlifting numbers were. I don't know what his best clean was or whatever. But like, just the weird stuff that he did. That was just like, you're like, oh my gosh, like
instant street cred.
Yeah, like what? So.
Yeah, there's guys like that all over the place that have those weird, weird abilities to just, and you look at it and you think, man, I've been training my whole life and I can't do shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So tell me about, so you ended up writing a book that was like, and tell me a little bit about your book and how it exploded.
Yeah, so basically, when I worked at Miami, I was interested in getting some info product out there. So I wrote just a fat loss book, and it's pretty basic actually, just good basic nutrition rules, a 4-phase training program, supplementation, things like that. And I met some people that helped, that were connected on the internet. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's a thing, like the internet, marketing world.
Yeah.
Whole different world. I would probably have a private plane if I actually cared about marketing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know. I get it.
None of my business today is marketed. It's
right.
all just word of mouth or people coming to me directly. Like,
right.
I have no website right now.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need any of that. If
right.
I had it, I could probably could have retired 10 years ago, but
yeah.
But so they just started spreading the book around, and it got a lot of traction right out of the gate. So at the time it was called the Fat Loss Solution. It's since been revamped. It's not even available right now, but I have it ready.
Yeah.
But it's been revamped under the Viper name. Viper VIPAR, Volume Intensity Periodized Athletic Recomposition.
Nice.
I figured that kind of described what I'm about, kind of
encompasses everything.
Because I'm big on periodization. I'm big on planning. I'm big on ensuring that your training program does what you want it to do, and not just picking random workouts. I also like the athletic component of fat loss. I think if you're trying to lose body fat, you should strive for physical performance.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing that so many fat loss people are missing. They just go in the gym to work out or get a burn. It's like, no, you should be driving metrics. So like 400-meter sprint is awesome. I tell people all the time, you show me somebody that runs 400 meters in 45 seconds and tell me if they have any body fat on them.
I always talk about that. Do you ever see Olympic athletes? That's what you want to look like.
You don't. And it's not because they're eating crazy restrictive diets. I mean, a lot of them do eat well, but it's because their training has such a crazy physiological output that the body has no other choice but to drop body fat and gain muscle.
Yeah.
And so that's where the athletic side of it comes in. So basically, I wanted to, in a nutshell, I wanted to bring a periodized fat loss program to the masses, one that was performance driven. And so that's what I did with Viper. And that's kind of, I have a YouTube channel, Viper, that I put videos. And my videos, it's wide ranging. Sometimes it's nutrition. Sometimes it's training. Sometimes it's like bodybuilding stuff. Other times it's athletic stuff. Other times it's rehab and stretching and therapy.
Yeah.
I just want to get out good info for people so they stop, spinning circles in the gym.
Yeah. Well, when it gets back out on the market, let me know, and I'll put it up on the website and everything.
Yeah.
Because it was a phenomenon when it came out. It seemed like people just jumped all over it.
It had a lot of traction. My biggest problem is I'm a perfectionist. And so one of the things that's hard about the internet marketing world that I struggle with and why I don't do it is because of the absolute, that you have to speak in such absolutes. This is the best way to lose fat. And deep down, I know that there's not always a best way. It's going to be individual. And so I had a hard time speaking in those terms. And so I've revised the book so many times to try to make, but at the end of the day, it's an info product. You can never completely customize something to a person. So I just have to accept that. But
I've been in the process of writing a book now for almost a year. And that's what I struggled with. So the way I train and the way I train people is very effective. But there's so many other variables and there's so many other systems. You can't tell me that 531 isn't a good program. You can't tell me that, West Side Conjugate isn't a good program. I mean, it just depends on you and what you like doing. So it started out as I'm going to put my training program down in a book. And then I went, look at all these places I went to. I went to Westside and I went to Ashland, and here's a chapter about environment and what really gets an athlete better. So now the book has become more of a conglomeration of stories and philosophies. And hey, I'm not going to give you a sets and reps book because, just like you said, there's so much to. I could rewrite that 100,000 times.
You
and
could.
It never would be
And the
perfect.
sad thing is, that in order to market it to the masses, it would have to be a dishonest marketing line, and that's just what there is, and that's what I always struggle with, and that's currently why my book is not on the thing, because the marketing company that I worked with originally was big into those hyperbolic statements, and it's just like. I was always calling them saying, "Hey, come on, we can't use that line. That's ridiculous. That's a clickbait line." And they're like, "Well, no, but that's what sells." And it did, because I was making money off of it, and the books were selling. But eventually, I was like, you know what? This isn't me. I can't do it. So that's why I haven't put it back out yet, because I'm just still growing my audience. I'm growing the YouTube channel. I'm growing that, and I'm going for the long-term philosophy. I'm busy enough with just word of mouth that I can just keep that going for a while. So my long-term plan, I guess, with the website and all that is I'm just going to continue putting out good content. And if it gets to a point where I got a lot of people asking for a product, I'll put it back out. And then I won't have to use the crazy taglines and the clickbait to.
And that's
to
where
get
we
people.
are in society in general right now, right? You can't be a middle of the road person in politics. The thing is, that's what they tell you. You can't be a guy who is okay with pro-choice and a guy who is also okay with, guns in your house. You have to pick one side or the other so you get this polarizing effect.
Yeah.
I am very skeptical of that philosophy, but that's the way we are with everything now,
It's
right?
true. And, with politics, I think we're led to believe we can't be in the middle, but I think it's only because of the simple fact that the 2 to 3 candidate choices we'll have will never be in the middle.
Right.
It's always going to be far left, far right.
Yeah.
Is who's going to be duking it out for the presidency and all the office seats. And it's unfortunate, but
And that's what you're dealing. They want you to deal in absolutes all the time. And I think half the politicians are full of shit anyhow. That you can't possibly be completely right or completely left on all these issues. It's just ridiculous.
And, swinging it back to training too. I mean, I love to talk politics. I kind of stayed away from it for a while just because I get tired of it. It's almost like Kardashians it's like the Kardashians show, but for the state of the United States. And I don't like that. I don't like the drama.
Yeah.
But going back to training, it's like you got West Side Barbell and you have 531. Pretty much opposite ends of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. You have a percentage-based sub-maximal program that uses the same lifts year-round. Then you have a not percentage-based, but max effort, high rotation turnover that rotates all the time. And both of them, I've used both of them.
Me too.
Really well. And so it's for either one to say. I mean, now Louis has to say his system is the best, right? And Jim has to think his system's the best, and that's what you want.
I think Louis actually thinks his system is the best, but
he does. But God bless him. I mean, what he's done for powerlifting too, in terms of, I mean, I love meeting people with that kind of passion. You know, regardless of if I agree 100% with him, I think it's awesome to have people like that do what he does and what he continues to do.
Yeah. So. You know, I got to spend some time with, and I've been trying to get Wendler on the podcast, but this is the way I do podcasts. I don't call you on the phone. I hate that. I can't stand to be on the phone anyhow. I'm not going to be on the phone with you for an hour. So I'm working on it. But I sat in a bar with him at Swiss for a couple hours, and it was really interesting to see not where we were opposed to each other in training, but how much of it actually lined up with each other.
Yeah.
Just a simple basic, especially when you're dealing with people who aren't high level athletes, just a simple basic, here's the exercise, work really hard on it, you know, switch the reps up a little bit here and there, but just work hard at it.
It all comes down to fatigue and readiness, right? Like you're just creating fatigue in different ways. With Wes, anytime you're maxing something out, you're just creating astronomical levels of fatigue, and you're not going to be ready for that stimulus again as soon. Mm-hmm. But if you're keeping it sub-max, you know, if you're keeping some reps in the tank, you can keep that exercise longer.
Yeah.
It's just common sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of Swiss, did you speak this year?
I did.
Okay, I didn't get to see you. I was in all the meathead seminars.
Yeah.
What'd you talk about?
I was in the rehab panel.
Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't go to any rehab shit.
Yeah. No. Ken wanted me to have on because I've had 5 shoulder surgeries now, and so it was a shoulder rehab panel. So Lord knows I've done a ton of shoulder rehab and continue to do. But yeah, I talked a lot about the serratus anterior. And some exercises and drills for shoulder health. And a lot of people mess it up. You know, the serratus, when you look at it, a lot of people do exercise in a manner that the pec minor will actually try to take over and do the job. So they're not really training the serratus. So a lot of that was just me going over specifics of how to get better activation.
Yeah.
It's a huge muscle.
Yeah.
Honestly, it spans the entire rib cage. You know, it's like people don't even think about it, but it's massive in size and it's very, very strong. And if it's dysfunctional, you will have shoulder pain and shoulder problems. So I talked about that in the presentation.
And we have so many people have shoulder problems.
Oh, well, yeah. It's because we do things ego-driven, right? Mm-hmm. I know for me, a lot of it was ego. It's like bench pressing weights that early on in my career that I had no business pressing, or doing rep schemes under cases of extreme fatigue when I was just trying to tough it out. And you know what I mean? That's when injury happens. Yeah. You know, you wouldn't do the same thing with squats, or it's just like the things we men do on bench presses are ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah, it's I will purposely stay away from bench pressing just because it's like, you know, I benched 455 when I was 35, 36. I'm okay. I'm done. You know,
good. I'm done.
Everything hurt when I did that, and I don't need it anymore. But yeah, we definitely every 40-year-old. The worst people I have in my gym are 40-year-old guys who played football when they were 18.
Yep.
And they come in, they're not only are they all jacked up, but they want to go back to benching right away, and they do everything wrong, and they don't want corrections.
And they live their life outside of the gym in terrible posture, slouched over their phone, slouched over their desk, and it's like, no wonder your shoulders suck. Like you're in these positions that just stuff is getting adaptively short on the front of the body, and now you can't activate the stabilizers on the back of the body.
I used to get that with a lot of 40-year-old guys who came in the gym. Now I'm getting it with 17-year-olds because they're all hunched over their phones.
I fear for this next generation of kids, like, because we grew up without cell phones, right? Yes, they've kind of been introduced later in our lives. So we're gonna have problems, but we're gonna be 60 or 70 by the time they manifest. Who cares? Yeah. You know? But the kid that has the iPad when he's 4, and then now a phone when he's 10, and you know, like, ugh.
Yeah, I fought it with my kid forever. Just fought it, and he finally got. Once he started throwing track and field, I let him get Instagram. So now he's on there looking at throwing videos and talking shit on there. So
he's not looking at throwing videos. He's looking at the female booty chick.
I had a talk with him the other day. I said, "Look," I said, we had a friend of ours who one of his son got caught downloading porn and paying with a credit card. I had to sit down and said, "Look, dude," I said, "porn is free. dude, you don't have to ever use my credit card. It's out there for free. You can find it. He's just like, Dad,
come on.
Out there, dude. You don't have to use my credit card. Just don't do that.
It's so funny.
Oh, man. So, getting back to the fascia stretching thing, I was telling you when I was coming down here that I am having, and it's not so much the fascia stretching, but I'm having, this is just a personal thing.
Yeah.
So I got on a statin drug.
Okay.
Earlier this year. My cholesterol was 300.
I
I don't even remember which one it is. But my cholesterol was at 300. Put me on a statin drug. And I didn't really put two and two together, but I want to know what your thoughts on it. All of a sudden, I'm blowing out hamstrings that I've never had a problem with before. You know, I deadlifted 735. I had a 365 power clean. Never had a problem with hamstrings before, but all of a sudden, I'm blowing out hamstrings. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with that. And, you know, Adrian's been working with my fascial stretching, and she has some opinions on it, but she's not sure either. But
yeah,
I don't know if you have any insight into that.
What's interesting, I'll be honest, I don't. It would probably depend which statin you were on.
Yeah.
There's several classes of them, but I will say this: while I couldn't say for sure, I will tell you that a lot of drugs are known nutrient depleters. You look at like asthma drugs, for example, will deplete things like taurine and potassium. So people that are on asthma drugs, you have to be really cautious of, like hamstring strains and things like that. So if anyone comes to me and they're on things like an albuterol inhaler or something like that, we're giving them extra taurine, extra potassium throughout the day. So there could potentially be something that is creating an imbalance in your electrolytes that's causing that to happen.
Yeah.
Or a dehydration issue too. I mean, I'm not sure for sure. It could be one of those things though.
Yeah.
And you say you noticed it just when you started.
Just recently. I've
like
been on them since February, and I've blown both hamstrings since then.
When you say blown, are they like
this one
full tears?
This one pulled. This one tore.
Okay.
So, within probably 3 weeks of each other.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you. That one may have tore because when you pulled that first one, that one now takes on more of the load.
Yeah.
And it's probably just doing double time. But that doesn't surprise me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you could claim that would be drug related. The first one could be for sure.
Right.
So
I'm just so I get I got talked into taking a statin.
Yeah.
And now it's just like I got to figure out a different way to.
Did they run the full cholesterol spectrum to look at particle size and VLDL and all that stuff?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, I would look at that.
And I didn't even know that there was a difference with that.
Yeah. So there's some cholesterol. So we've been trained by common knowledge that there's good and bad cholesterol, and that HDL is good and LDL is bad. That's what they've trained us to believe, like commercials and things like that. Real doctors understand that there are good and bad LDL particles, and there are good and bad HDL particles. So you would need that full test to get the fractions of each, and that's going to tell you more than total cholesterol.
Right.
Total cholesterol is kind of, I don't want to say it's invaluable. It's a quick screen to potentially look to see if you need more screens. So yeah, if you come in with 300, we should probably send you for more tests. But in my opinion, that's not statin right away. That's let's see what else is going on.
Okay.
You know, if your cholesterol is 300 because your good HDL is crazy through the roof.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different story.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, my diet is, and we were talking. My diet is, it's been keto, but it's heavily meat based. You know, and that's just the way I digest food. I have a hard time with vegetables, and I love them. They just don't sit well with me. So, but if I eat a ribeye, I feel great. You know. So,
what about other sources of fiber? Do you take like any?
I take a fiber supplement.
Yeah. So that you should be fine.
Yeah. So good. I'm gonna see about getting another test done. I got another one scheduled for Monday. So So we were talking. You've got your daughter in track and field now.
Daughter's in track and field.
And you could just tell, you just lit up when I started talking to you about that.
Dude, I love it. It's hilarious. My daughter is like, she's my little meathead.
Uh-huh.
She'll come out to me and we'll be sitting there, we'll be watching TV, which if you know kids and TV, like what 4-year-old doesn't want to watch cartoons, right? We'll be watching cartoons, and mind you, we moderate it. She maybe gets 30 minutes a day of cartoons, maybe an hour. But we'll be watching her 30 minutes of cartoons, and she'll pop up and she'll go, Daddy, let's go get a workout in. She goes, we haven't worked out yet today. And so she'll come out here with me. You see this ladder I got from my power rack? Right. I pull that down, and she'll do ladder climbs up and hang from the chin-up bar. I'll pull the gymnastics rings down. She'll do skin the cats, and I got her some dumbbells over there.
Yeah, little blue ones.
Don't tell me those. Actually, don't tell anybody those are mine.
Yeah, right.
The 2-pound baby dumbbells. No, but she comes out and she'll like lift with me.
Yeah.
And she loves being out here. So she loves track and field too. She got into it. And so she does.
And she's what?
4?
4? Yeah.
4. She's 4. So she does the 50 meters, the 200 meters, and the long jump.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. I'll tell you what, she's pretty fast. She's running faster than several kids that are 2 years older than her, which at that age, 4-year-old beating a 6-year-old is kind of a big deal.
Sure.
But yeah, she loves it. And she also does soccer and t-ball. So we're busy.
When you talking about restricting her to a hour of cartoons, one of the things we noticed is, so we haven't had a real TV in the house for years. We have Netflix on the computer or whatever. But my son isn't into video games. He's 14 years old now. Never really been into video games. Like I said, just got a cell phone with social media recently, but he was always like that. He was out playing outside, and you look at kids today and, when I talk to other parents and they tell you about how hard it is to raise a kid in today's world, it's not. If you raise a kid from the 80s, you're fine because he's going to dominate everybody else around you. You just can't sit him in front of a television like that.
It's kind of pathetic what it's become in terms of people just not parenting at all, using the iPad to parent, using the TV to parent. And I don't want to be judgmental or anything, but yeah, sometimes you gotta let your kids play outside. It's funny, my wife and I, sometimes we go to some local high school stuff, and I don't remember where we were the other day, but we were watching a group of high school kids warm up and for baseball, and it was so pathetic how uncoordinated they were. We were both just laughing at these kids who my 4-year-old is more coordinated than these high school kids were, and I was just like, it's unbelievable. That's what you get when you watch TV and play video games all day. And kids are interesting because I know why parents do it. It's because they're sitting there maybe trying to unload the dishwasher, and the 4-year-old's going, play with me, you play with me. And they go watch TV. But what you find is, if you're resistant enough and you say, go use your imagination, all of a sudden you look up and it's been 40 minutes and you haven't heard from your kid. And you look and they're down in the basement doing something really creative.
Right.
They've got this amazing fantasy land that they've come up with using blankets and brooms and their toys, and it's that makes their brain develop.
Yeah.
That absolutely is critical, and every research and every science study that's ever looked at child development will show you how beneficial that is.
Yeah.
Yet we take the easy way out so often, and we just put them in front of the TV. And so we always encourage her to go use her imagination. She comes up with some of the most beautiful drawings and imaginative games. She has some fun games. We played a game the other day. She came up with it on her own. My wife hates it when we play this game, but it's honestly, there's no better way to spend a Friday night. But this is what we do. She gets on the couch and we take all the pillows in the house. I'm talking upstairs from the beds. We get all the pillows, and she's on her boat. She's the captain of the boat, and I'm a pirate.
Right.
And I have to crawl around and try to board the ship.
Right.
And meanwhile, as I get close, she's just launching pillows at me, right? And it's it's awesome. But then when I get to the ship, I tickle her, and then I become the captain.
Right.
And then and what's funny, because she will, you saw my kitchen a minute ago. I'll be on that couch, and she'll try to sneak around behind the kitchen cabinet, and I'll launch pillows over the sink, down behind her, these long range bombs. And I can't tell you how many times I've knocked pictures off, knocked lamps over.
Emily's got her head in her hands.
Yeah, she's just what are you doing? But my daughter came up with this game out of her own brain because it was a day that I just said, no TV. You've already watched TV today.
Yeah.
And now it's turned into one of our favorite activities to do. And it's it breaks my heart to think of what if on that one day I was just just watch TV. It's fine.
Yeah.
We never have. Yeah. We've spent literally hours in the past month playing that game.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had that time together. So it's just it's important for kids.
Yeah.
And again, no judgment. I'm not going to tell you there hasn't been a time that I've just turned the TV on here, watch this. I got to do this right now.
But we all get into habits just like everybody else, just like the kids do. It's the habit. Here's the iPad.
Yeah.
I lament because I get a lot of kids in the gym who can't jump rope. They can't do an air squat. Man. They don't know how to do a real, not that the sit-up is some, amazing exercise for you, but can't do a basic sit-up all the way up and touch their feet and come all the way back. They, pull-ups, forget about it. I had one kid in who, this kid was a mess, and he would go into his pocket to pull his keys out, and Rice Krispie treat wrappers would fall out, and he would tell us that, his parents take him to McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't imagine going into a fitness program in like high school, whether it's some kind of sport or something, and not be able to do a jumping jack or jump rope but none of them can do it. None of them can jump rope ever. I never get it.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
To me. Yeah. It's a sad state of affairs, but I think people are starting to see that, and I think they're starting to get their kids involved. I honestly believe for kids, and I got this straight from Charles. He put it in my head, and now as a parent, I am fully on board with it. I think all kids should either do gymnastics or martial arts or both.
Yes.
And so my daughter's done gymnastics. She will do martial arts at some point. We're just kind of like looking for, like right now she's in 3 sports at this moment.
Yeah.
So we don't exactly have time for it right now, but she will do martial arts at some point. But
you have a badass judo school down here.
We do?
Get the name from my guy up, because he comes down here all the time for tournaments.
Yeah.
I'll get you.
Okay.
I'll get you the name of it.
Yeah. But yeah, she's going to do that just for general coordination and like strength training wise. Kids are at an advantage because they're light for they're in terms of their frame size. It's much different than adults. So like if you can get a kid to be able to do a chin up, all you have to do once they have that ability, they just have to maintain it, and they will maintain that as they grow.
Right.
And so like my daughter can do chin ups now. She's 4. And so we're just going to have her keep doing it. And like, how hard it is to get like a high school female to do a chin up, right? But if she's been doing them her whole life, it's going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And that's, so we're teaching her to be strong. We encourage strength. And food is interesting with kids too. Food is tricky when you have kids, because obviously you can't just say, oh, my kid's going to eat paleo, because you have birthday parties and there's snack time at school. And we've really taken a big step in, we don't discourage anything. Again, the whole don't think of a pink elephant thing.
Yeah, right.
So we don't say no chocolate ever. But what we do say is we praise her for when she makes the choice to have broccoli.
That's
good. Livy, that's a good grow food. So we've termed foods grow foods. We say, Livy, this chicken or this beef, this steak is going to be good to help your body. You like to climb on the monkey bars, right? Yeah, I like to climb on the monkey bars. This steak is going to help you climb on the monkey bars even better. Your friend who can do XYZ thing that you can't do yet? If you continue to eat your steak, you're going to be able to do that someday. And that's all of a sudden her motivator. My daughter has actually turned down cookies from family. When they say, here, Livy, you want a cookie? We're all having cookies. And she'll go, that's not a very good grow food.
Yeah.
And that's all on her own will. Right. We've never forbidden her to have a cookie.
You're using the positive reinforcement instead of the negative.
Right. So we're just like, eat your broccoli, eat your steak, eat your, potatoes, have your good grow foods. And then if you want a little cookie, well, the magic of that is they end up eating their nutritious food, which fills them up. Mm-hmm. And even if they do have cookie, they're kind of full already. So they have a couple bites and leave it. So we're not creating these psychological issues that so many of us have with food these days, right? Because it's psychological too. If you start preaching to kids that they can never have a cookie or never have chocolate, when they go to their friend's house, they're going to binge on it.
Yeah,
right. And that's not a cycle we want to create, especially in young women, right?
Sure.
So that's why we don't limit it. We just make sure eat your grow foods first. And then if you want a little bit, if we're at a family dinner or whatever, we don't have it in the house really, but if we're out somewhere, we let her have it. And honestly, it's about 50-50. Sometimes she has it, other times she just chooses not to.
Well, and just like you just said, it's not like you have it in the house. That's huge.
Yeah.
You are an adult human. I see people who, well, my kids won't eat that. I bet you they will.
Yeah, get them hungry enough.
Yeah. You can't have that. Just don't buy it.
It requires a little bit of heartbreak. Because inevitably what happens, and we had to go through this with my daughter. She wanted, I forget what she wanted. There was one day she wasn't going to eat anything we were having. She wanted something else that was less than healthy. And we said, no, this is what you're having. And she went through the whole, I'm crying, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're going to have to go to bed hungry then. So, okay, she goes to bed hungry, and of course that ruins our sleep because
Sure.
then she gets us up at 3 a.m. I'm hungry. Nope, not until you eat what we gave you the night before. It's like the next day for breakfast, she had what it was that she was refusing the night before, and she scarfed it because she was so dang hungry.
Yep.
And then it eliminated it from there. There was no fuss, no craziness after that.
Yeah,
So,
it takes a little bit of discipline and maybe
but
one
it's
rough
discipline
night.
on the parents.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Most parents, I knew that night I was going to be getting my butt out of bed in the middle of the night because she was going to be crying. But it's like you have to put yourself aside for the benefit of your kids, and that's
we
hardest.
We had a turning point moment. So my son now is knock on wood, he's a dream child. He's an athlete. He's a really good student. Loves lifting weights. He's super jacked. Very polite. But there was a time when he was about 10 where it could go either way.
Yeah.
And I remember him one night just being an asshole, and it was like midnight. And if anybody knows me, that's way past my bedtime. Yeah. And he was bitching at my wife and yada, yada, yada. And they're going back and forth, and he's not going to bed, and she's getting frustrated. And finally, just like the scene from Predator where he pulls the side straps off, I did it with the CPAP. So it's just like, and I get up, and it was middle of summer, and I walked out, and I said, this ends now. And my wife just walked away, and I went over and I go, grab your tennis shoes, let's go.
Yeah.
Walk out in the front yard. I'm standing in the driveway in my underwear, arms crossed, and we're a house, we have a condo down on the lake. And I said, it's probably about 300 yards to the lake. I said, down to the lake and back.
Yeah.
He's like, oh. So he goes running down to the lake and back, comes back. I said, all right, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, 20 air squats.
Yeah.
He got down to the lake and back. We must have did that for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was so grateful that I wasn't throwing him out of the house. He told me the next day. But that ended it. After that, he was fine, and we got him I bought him Jocko Willink's book.
Yeah.
He read that. All of a sudden, he wanted to train all the time, and
That's awesome.
ever since then.
That's awesome.
But it takes that discipline. I'm going to have a shitty night. I'm going to be out in my underwear for 40 minutes in the front yard with this
I haven't
kid.
had that one yet.
How old's your son?
He's 10 months. 11 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just starting to stand up.
So you barely sleeping maybe right now.
No, you know what? He's a good sleeper.
Good.
He eats well. He's a horse. He sleeps well. He sleeps typically 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. So, and then 2 naps during the day too. So he's on a growth cycle.
Yeah.
Right? He's got the GH and the testosterone pumping because he is just eats and sleeps and plays, and playing is like training for him.
Yeah.
Because he loves the stairs.
Right.
The other day I caught him halfway up the stairs, and he doesn't know how to go down yet. So
Right.
it's just funny. But he's going to be a little wrecking ball, man. He's strong. Like it's hard to change his diaper, to hold him down.
Right.
Like you have to hold him. With my daughter, I could just put my hand like on her belly button to hold her down if she wanted to roll. My son, I've got to get all the way up like by his neck just to get enough leverage.
Got the whole hand on him.
Yeah, because if I hold him down by his belly button, he sits up and he just grunts at me. He's funny. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was your wife an athlete too, or?
she played sports. She didn't play collegiate sports,
Right.
but she definitely loves to
So
train.
it's definitely in the family then.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny with her. She was a cardio queen all through college. So she was always just doing cardio stuff, and she actually didn't get into lifting weights until she came to a Poliquin seminar that I was teaching. We would often, if I was teaching in a cool city, she would just fly in because I would fly with Charles, and so my ticket and my hotel and all that were always taken care of. So she'd fly in, and then we would teach, and then typically after every course, I'd get some time off. So we may teach for 3 weeks and then have like 6 or 8 weeks off.
Yeah.
So she'd fly in, and then we'd sometimes she'd attend the course, and then we'd vacation somewhere after.
Yeah.
So she came to a course I was teaching, and she's looking around, and she sees all these girls that are like super fit, but also still feminine, right? Because that was always the fear of lifting weights. You're going to turn into this like He-Man. And she's like, wait a minute, this girl's squatting a ton of weight, and she still looks like a girl, and she's like hot, and she's got a good body. So she started lifting weights, and it's funny. My wife, in under a year of training, at 115 pounds, was able to squat 200 and deadlift 200.
That's sick. Yeah, that's really good.
And honestly, like she'll tell you, it's like that was the best shape she was in of her life.
Yeah.
It's like when she started training with weights hard, and we still did. We got the prowler sled. She was out doing prowler sprints but yeah, squats, deadlifts, push-ups, chin-ups. That made the bulk of her training.
Basics is what you need.
Yep.
That's one thing that another good thing that I think CrossFit brought to us is when women used to think about weightlifting, they thought of these women bodybuilders who were just, your thoughts on steroids are your own, but they were juiced to the gills.
Yeah.
They didn't look healthy. They did look very manly, but now you have, Camille and Annie Thor's daughter and these women, and it's just like, they don't look like men to me, you know, and they're super strong and super jacked. And I think that was one of the best things that happened because of the functional fitness movement.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. I'm wondering when the big PED use is going to be really widespread in CrossFit. Do you think it is already?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is for sure. I think, the girl got popped last year, and I made a comment about it online, kind of like, she got popped, I think it was for SARMs.
Yeah.
And I made a comment because everyone was defending her right off the bat. Oh, she would never do this. Yeah. The fuck she wouldn't. Of course she would. They're putting. Yeah. You're doing
It follows the money.
There's money on the line. You're doing a sport where you're doing 5 workouts a day for 3 or 4 days. How do you think these people are recovering from this? Do you think they're just naturally all gifted at? Yeah. I don't blame her for taking drugs. If there's money on the line, you're a professional athlete. You do what you got to do.
What's the pot now? Is it 200 quarter mil for
CrossFit something like that?
I mean, that's significant.
It's significant. And then look at all the shit you get from your sponsors and Rogue Reebok and why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's a life-changing amount of money, right?
And this is what you do. You're not an astrophysicist. You're not teaching school. You're not a movie star. You can do thrusters better than anybody else in your area. It's no different than pro football or anything else, And so my opinion is it's just as rampant as any other.
You think it's already there? They're just not picking it up as much.
I don't see the benefit of them picking it up.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
What does Reebok or CrossFit have to gain from someone testing positive?
100%. I'm on board. I think that's pretty much the case. I think they're gonna, if they're not already, turn a lot of blind eyes to it.
Yeah,
they may periodically pop somebody. I think just to put the scare in people, or to let the public know we still don't condone drug use.
Right.
But
I looked at their labs who tested. It looks a little sketchy to me. The lab that's actually doing the testing.
Really?
So I don't. Yeah. I definitely think it's there. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think anytime there's money on the line,
Well, it's just like the Olympics too. It's like the honest truth is, it's just who has the best pharmacist, who can stay ahead of the testing. As of now, there's literally thousands. Last I checked, there was like 3,500 ways to modify the testosterone molecule, and they can only test for about 400 of them right now. So all you need is a good chemist to add a hydroxy group here and take away a carboxyl group here, and boom, we have a completely different compound that doesn't show up on any drug test, by the way. And I think that's. Just
so you got to be kind of stupid to get caught at this point.
Maybe, yeah.
And that's we see with these guys in the UFC are the same way. The guys that there's plenty of guys out there who aren't getting popped, and you look at them and you're like, holy shit, how is Yoel Romero not getting popped for something, but maybe his chemist is better than everybody else.
It's kind of tricky, right? Because there's a certain look that people get that are taking performance-enhancing drugs, but there are also a very rare few individuals who have that look completely naturally. We had a guy, he's got a Super Bowl ring now, Brandon Brooks. He was one of our offensive linemen at Miami. And this guy, 6'5", 330, and had the outline of a six-pack as an offensive lineman, as a freshman.
Yeah.
And this was a guy who would have no clue, like, how to, 18-year-old kid, he wouldn't know how to take this or that. He doesn't have a pharmacist making it. And he was just freaked. His parents are huge too, right? Yeah. Like, mom's like 6'8", like, they knock you on your ass. Right. And, but yeah, so this cat, first day, our coaching staff at the time, the football coaching staff, always wanted like 1RM numbers for all the tests, including power cleans. And so we came in for power clean testing day. He had never done a clean before. Like, his high school program was was just based on like squats and bench. And so he's like, I've never done power clean before. I'm like, we'll just try, see how you do. So we teach him, show him kind of the basics, and we just start adding weight. And we're just like, we'll just let him go, and if it starts to look awful, we'll shut him down. He kept going, and we finally just stopped him at 400 pounds because we're like, like, we'll just put your max at 400, but I mean, probably could do a little bit more, but on his first day of cleans. Yeah. So it's like, just that's not, there's no drug you can take that would give you that kind of physical ability. And the crazy thing is, we were a mid-major university. Right. This wasn't a Texas. This wasn't an Ohio State. We were a mid-major university, and we still would get the occasional kid like that.
Freak
would
show.
Just like blow your mind.
Yeah.
We had a girl, track and field. She was, if I remember correctly, gosh, it's been 10 years now. Maybe more. No, it's been 13 years since I had this girl. But she was on the same level as a lot of the girls that competed in the Olympics that year. She had some life stuff happen, some really tragic stuff. But anyway, she could do Nordic curl, not glute ham raises, but Nordic curl raises with an extra 45 pounds and come back up.
Wow.
So go down and come back up. We put her on the glute ham bench. She would do single leg glute ham raises holding extra weight, like all the way down and all the way up. Any clue why she was amazing at long jump?
Yeah, right.
It's like just insane hamstrings,
Wow.
like just freak show. And just a natural kid. She was poor. She didn't, it wasn't like she had millions of dollars to hire a chemist to make her this designer drug. Just like, that's just her.
And that's what people don't realize is, yes, there are people out there like that, but you're not getting that many of them to show up at the CrossFit Games every year. Exactly. They're just not all just. And if they were all that freakish,
many of them are playing like they're already in track and field, or they're in football, or they're in
that was it's always it's a source of frustration for me, because on one side hey, go ahead, do your thing, but I'm adamantly against the. Every time they get popped, it wasn't me. This was all a mistake.
I'm
just like, God, I'm on TRT. It's the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel great.
Same.
Just you should be. If you're getting older, go get checked out. And
it blows my mind, like this the medical practice of today's world. It's like, you show up at a doctor, they will give you an anti-anxiety drug. They'll give you an antidepressant. They will give you blood thinners. They'll give you a statin, and then you ask them, "Hey, what do you think about like some testosterone replacement?" We don't do performance enhancing drugs. And it's like, wait a minute, you're going to give me all these drugs, most of which testosterone will fix, by the way, and none of those were ever meant to be in my body. But the drug that my own nutsack makes, you're not going to let me put it back to normal levels again. It's just mind blowing.
And they want you normal for a 40-year-old guy.
Yeah,
that's not normal. That's still way low.
Exactly. Homer Simpson.
Right. I want to be like in my mid-20s. Because that's when you feel good. It's like you said. I went in. I get an allergy shot for seasonal allergies. Yep. It's an entirely different steroid.
Yeah.
And the guy's giving me a hard time about that. I'm like, look, there's nothing. I'm already doing TRT, so that drug you're giving me is just going to keep me from sneezing. That's all. I'm not going in here to get a bigger bench press. I had the talk with him, and he begrudgingly gave it to me, but it's not even the same thing.
I know, man. There's some docs that are getting better about it, and I think the education piece is getting better. They're starting to see like, wow, we can really improve people's health. Yeah. But it's a fine line, right? It's just like anything else. It's like, too much of it can cause problems. Yeah. Not enough of it can cause problems. You want to find that sweet spot, Yeah. And it's amazing. It blows my mind. So my doc hovers my dose. It's between 160 milligrams to 200 a week, based on my bloods. If stuff starts to get too high, he'll knock it down to 160. Sometimes at 160, my free test will start to fall a little bit, so he'll knock it back up. But so that's my dose. It's been for the past 8 years now. That's what it's been. And what's funny is I hear these guys like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a gram a test," and I'm like, "A gram? Like, what do you need that much for?"
Magic, absolute magic.
Yeah. just like, man, I was like, I feel like Superman on 160 milligrams or 200.
That's about where my dose is, right between 150 and 200, somewhere in there.
Yeah, like, I can't imagine what would happen if I hulked out and did. Now I'm gonna do 2 grams for just 6 months. Let's see what happens.
It's like 3 syringes a week, you know.
Yeah, turn into a human pincushion.
Right.
I like it. My doc has he has me do mine subcutaneous, so I don't even.
Oh, really?
I'm not doing it in the muscle.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, I'm. My guy was talking to me about peptides and HGH, and my wife at the time was adamantly against it because she works in an infusion clinic for cancer, and she thought, but she's one of these types who she's a nurse, she's got a master's degree, so she did the research on it, and then she came to me just a couple weeks ago. She goes, "Yeah, it looks good to me. You should probably go ahead and try it. It'll probably make you a little bit more healthy and keep some of these injuries at bay." So
So what are you gonna do?
I'm probably whatever he recommends. I'm not sure what he because I adamantly said no because she's the brains of the operation, you know. So, but whatever he prescribes, I'll probably go with, and hopefully it'll heal up some of these injuries.
That's awesome.
And go from there. But that's.
I had a doc in one of my shoulder surgeries. During the surgery, shot in 15 IUs of GH, a vial of BPC, hyaluronic acid, PRP, and what else? And collagen, all together during surgery.
Yeah,
amazing, unbelievable healing.
Is that? I'm guessing that isn't common practice.
No, not at all. No, it was. He's a friend of mine, and I wanted to experiment. So he looked and he's like, there is research on all of those things intra-articular. He's like, we'll do it. We'll do it in one big cocktail, and incredible.
I was gonna say, I bet you it really helped with the healing.
Supposed to be in a sling. Supposed to be immobilized for 8 weeks. I was out in 10 days, and just felt good. Now the flip side of that was I felt a little too good, a little too early. So I ended up skipping, essentially blasting through the initial phases of rehab, the early neuromuscular education stuff that I probably would have benefited from. So there is the downside to that.
Well, the downside is in our own brain, not
exactly. It was my downside. But
it's frustrating that stuff's out there, and stem cells are out there, and we're having to, in this country, we're getting this third world type treatment sometimes just because of laws and regulations and
medical dogma.
Yeah, right.
Well, like stem cells, I have a doc that does stem cell therapies. He's a friend of mine, and I had some stuff I was wanting to try, and he goes, "Look," he's like, "I'll do the stem cells for you." He's like, "But if you're really serious about it, and it's becoming to the point where you're looking at joint replacement, then," he said, "I would recommend going to Europe."
Right.
And because in the U.S. they can do stem cell treatment, but they can only re-inject what they take from you. Mm-hmm. So they pull stem cells out of your bone marrow in your hip, shoot it into your shoulder. In Europe, they pull the same stem cells out, but then they can culture them in the lab. So 30,000 becomes 200,000, becomes 1 million, becomes whatever. So then you have this super, super high concentration that they shoot.
Yeah.
In the U.S., they're concerned, the big concern, and it's a legit concern, uncontrolled cell growth is essentially cancer.
Right.
So there's a worry that they're going to be speeding up potential cancer, which I get, but this doc said, really, he said, it's a big scare. It's going to take a while for the FDA to get on board. He goes, but I think in the next 10 years, they'll probably allow that in the U.S. too, because they're finding it's just so much more effective.
Let's hope. There's by that time I'm going to be an absolute train wreck. So I'll hopefully. Because there's so many of my friends who are getting it done here in the States, and they're not getting the same results that these guys are getting when they go to Mexico or Europe or these places. And it's all out there. It's frustrating to read about, and then you can't get it done. I
know.
Physical therapist.
Not unless you got that Kobe Bryant money, right?
Right. Yeah. You can go get taken care of. Well, man, I wanted to. Do you want to tell the airplane story before you go? Is that legal?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a real story. Before we started the podcast, I was telling Mark that I snuck on an airplane in Germany, which is absolutely true. I was over there. I was on a deployment with the U.S. Air Force. I was in the military. We don't want to talk about that, but so I was the only one that deployed from my unit at that time to an op that we were doing. And so this was under the veil of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. So I was the only one from my unit that deployed. I attached to another unit. And we were in Germany, and the plane was scheduled to take us back home. But remember, I'm not part of that unit, so everyone else found out, but they were going to leave 6 hours early.
Right.
So I show up ready to go, and they're like, "Yeah, the plane's gone." I'm like, "What do you mean the plane's gone? Like, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, I left 6 hours early." And I'm like, "Dang, man, like, what am I going to do?" So I don't speak any German, but I did know that the nearby commercial airport, they had just had like a lightning strike struck the terminal, so they were running planes back to the U.S.
Right.
out of a barn, essentially out of a hangar. And so I just popped in line like I was supposed to be there, and I knew it was going to the U.S. I didn't know where, and yeah, it's amazing, and it's also scary to me that it happened. That I was able to do it so easily. But yeah, I just got on there, nervously sat. We sat on the tarmac forever, and I knew I was just like, I'm going to prison. Like it's gonna happen. And sure enough, landed in Chicago, and I was like, all right,
not too
Chicago.
far away.
I made a call, got a connected flight, and yeah, they got their commander got a phone call from our commander reaming them. Somebody, I don't know what eventually fell out from there, but someone got in huge trouble. So it was ridiculous. Yeah,
life shit, man. I love that.
Yeah. The whole, I was so nervous. I was like, but I had to get home.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to stay. I didn't know anybody. I had
improvise, adapt, overcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to thank you for having us down here again. I'd love to do it again sometime. Are you going to? Are you going up to Ashland again for the seminar?
Which one?
The one in December. The one you did last year.
Oh yeah. If they have it again, I'll go again. Yeah.
I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
The thing is.
I should have called you. I was actually, I didn't even think about it, but I was up there 2 weeks ago. I was working on meeting with Judd, and then worked on their 400 guy, Miles.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the top 400 guys in the nation.
Wow,
guy
is moving.
He's insane. So he had missed. That's another case. He had missed practice for a month, and they're like, "We got conference and outdoor nationals coming up. Like, what can we get him ready?" So I went up, worked on him for an hour, and I think yesterday he ran a PR in the 200. So doing okay. Again,
what got me hooked on this was. I do a lot of Atlas stone work, so that's one of my favorite things to do. I love playing with the stones, and I'd done a workout where I was flipping tires, and it was some ridiculously stupid workout that went on for like a half hour, But the after it happened, my arm swelled up and was in pain to the touch, and it was like it was like Judd's arms.
Yeah,
it was like that and we were going to Key West, Florida the next day, and I was like, all right. I'm not telling my wife because it might be broken. She's going to make me go to the hospital. We're not going to go to Florida. So I just, hit it. We go down to Florida, come back. And that was start of October, beginning of February, it's still like that, and I can't get it to straighten. And I've gone to a couple physical therapists at this point. None of them can help me out. They're giving me Zottman curls and shit. And Adrienne comes in because she's training for a strongman competition. She's like, let me look at your arm. 15 minutes, and I was fine. Everything was fine.
Do?
Just not even. She said, "I don't even have my good tools." She just did a lot of blade work on it and some pressure, with her thumbs and stuff, and worked into my wrists and in between my thumb and forefinger.
That's awesome. Dude, I did the same thing. Not with Atlas stones. I got roped into doing like my friend that does the kind of CrossFit stuff. Yeah. Sometimes he ropes me into their group workouts, and I'll do them. But I was doing one last year, and it wasn't the Atlas stones, but those D balls, like the 150 pound, whatever. So it was in the workout, and he had it where it was like D ball, like up over the shoulder, and everyone else was doing them like kind of the way you're supposed to, getting them up, working them up, and then pushing them over. I was trying to be a meathead and show off, so I was scooping under and just throwing it over my shoulder. Yeah. And I went on one, I scooped it, and I go to toss it, and it's like a loud pop. Biceps tendon tore on the thing. Like, he turned around and he was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "That was my biceps." But it was just the long head. Like, short head was still intact. So like, it was honestly like 3 weeks of kind of therapy. Like, I just did my own therapy here with like isometrics and stuff, and I could feel like where it retracted to. Right. And so luckily it didn't retract all the way, but it pulled off, and it just scarred down right where it was. I honestly didn't lose really much strength.
Well, you blew your pec out too, didn't you?
I've torn both pecs. I've got complete. I've got scar there, scar here. I've blown both pecs just being an idiot.
Because I remember last year at the Ashland seminar, you weren't sure you could come up.
Yeah, I was like, at that seminar at the time, I was 15 days post-op.
You said you were afraid you were going to be loopy. Malcolm was telling me, he was like, he's afraid he's going to be all drugged up.
Yeah, but luckily that wasn't the case.
Well, it worked out well because your talk was great, and Jance's talk ended up being great, and they wrote and they squeezed you both in.
You.
So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but great. So I want to again thank you for having us down, and man. If anyone's in this area, get a hold of Ryan and get a hold of me, and I'll get you in touch with them if you need fascial stretching done. And
awesome.
I highly, highly recommend it. And thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Thank you.